Good evening and salutations, my GH fans. Looking at the previews, I can tell that tomorrow's episode is already going to be better than today's episode. Eh, I don't know. Today's episode wasn't really bad, but let's just take a look at it for a minute. I mean, you had Anna that was asking Maxie questions. I felt like the conversation that Anna was having with Maxie was like the same conversation that Felicia was having with Maxie. Are you doing okay? It seems like you're handling everything too well. Can you think of anything? And it's just the same conversation over and over again. Are you sure you can remember anything else? And all Maxie does is deflect, um, try to put on a whole, oh, you're questioning me, it makes me feel like I'm doing something wrong. We done been through this before. The only difference is that Anna's like, let's go back to the scene of the crime. And let's get Austin there too to help, jog up this memory. Maybe between one or both of y'all can come up with something. Um, I don't know what this plan is. That whatever this plan started out as, it is just disintegrating slowly, just piece by piece by piece. Um, there's a point where after Austin was sitting there talking to Valentine about, getting revenge on Brooklyn because, well, she's Brooklyn and it's not really that much of a reason, talks to Victor. And Victor's sitting there asking a lot of questions. She's like, when did you find out um, that, you know, Barely wasn't Valentine's? Like, when did you find out about this faking fraternities and stuff like that? Like, when did you find out about this? Um, And at first, I was sitting there wondering, it's like, was this question going to the point of him finding out the secret? But ultimately, he wants to use Maxie as a way to get back at Brooklyn. And I'm like, Austin, you should probably say something. If you have any sort of feelings towards Maxie whatsoever, I would shut this plan down fast. You're not saying anything. I mean, I guess the question is, does he want to hurt Brooklyn? Is hurting Brooklyn more important than being with Maxie? Now, how you go about this is going to determine whether I'm going to be sitting there rooting for you. Because if you screw this up, also, I'm not going to lie, I don't know. For me, it just seems a little, off. Like, this way, I feel like Austin just seems a little too old to be trying to date Maxie. I really do. It just seems so off. It's no. Maybe Brit, maybe just because she's a little bit taller, so she can pass as a little bit older, but like, even still then, I'm like, bro, I don't know. It's just the age difference, the way that they look, it just seems kind of off. Um, I'm like, bro, if you want to shoot your shot, this isn't the way to go about it. Now, oddly, now I was mentally thinking about this before I turned to my laptop and everything. Is that I gotta sit there and say probably my favorite part of this episode. I cannot believe I'm sitting there saying this. Was Brooklyn and Chase. The Brooklyn and Chase scenes was probably my favorite part. Um, their dynamic is very interesting. The way that they play off each other. Um, there was one part because they're talking about moving in. At first, they're talking about going to Amsterdam, which is out the question for, well, plot purpose. To be honest, let's just be real for a minute. It's just more of that would make the best sense is to go to Amsterdam, be as far away from Port Charles, be as far away from Peter because at this point, Tracy knows everything. She's in the loop. But it makes more sense for them to move to Amsterdam. They can hire their own security and whatever. But, plot. So we're not doing that. So at first, Chase is like he wants to move back in. Brooklyn's like that's a bad idea because, you know, she has a thing for him. But then, Chase is like, why don't you move in with me? But then she says that's a bad idea too because of, I'm not gonna lie, I don't exactly remember why. But what they really started on was the fact that, they'll just get another house. They get another house, their own little rental space. They'll have Tracy flip the bill, and they can just kind of do their own thing. And Chase will come up with some sort of excuse to Ned to soften the blow of whatever type of anger he's gonna feel. Well, like I said, their scenes was interesting. The way they played it with each other, like when they was meant to talk about how messy Brooklyn is, and how Brooklyn is forcing Chase to like watch The Bachelor, even though he secretly likes it. Stuff like that was like, you know what? I'm not normally for couplings and stuff like that, but they're an interesting dynamic, and I definitely want to sit there and see how it plays out. There was one point where Victor was sitting there talking to Anna, then talking to Maxie, but to be honest, I'm not gonna lie, it didn't really seem like it went anywhere. So yeah. Now Felicia comes in there to talk to Peter and to try to sit there and see if she can get whereabouts on where, her granddaughter is. Valentine doesn't know, but he's gonna sit there and play like he does, this way he can try to get some sort of leverage. Um Now Felicia starts to go in on him. But then Peter starts to go in on Felicia, and it was one of those things where it's like, sweetheart, um, you didn't know exactly what room you're actually going into, right? Like, this guy is going to play dirty, and he literally did. He brought up, all her times where she missed out on her daughter's lives because she was busy globetrotting. Called her a princess. I don't know what that was about. Um, but then wasn't it there saying how she was too busy doing other things while Georgie got killed. And I'm surprised she actually had a lot of restraint and didn't try to like kill him at that point. But honestly, to tell you the truth, nothing came from it, and so she just wound up leaving, and he just wound up getting frustrated. And I'm not gonna lie, it didn't really seem like it went anywhere. Britt and Brad are hanging out in her office, and Britt is like, why don't we just hang out at the Metro Court? I'm like, damn well he's not allowed there, or Kelly's, or any other place that's owned by Sonny and his family. Um, but I mean, they set the Metro Court, and at that point, Britt was like, "There's other places we can go besides the sets that we normally see. These other places that they can go." But at first, Brad is like, I'm down because I lost my husband, I can't find a job, and my life is plunged in the toilet. But it's not just about that. Now, it's not just saying that that stuff isn't true, but it's not just about that. What it really comes down to is his aunt and how scared he is of, you know, him being seen with, Brit in public. And then he actually tells her what he did. So at that point, she's like, I'm sorry, what? Now, Brit says something along the lines of, I'm not intimidated by anyone. I'm, Faison's daughter and yada, yada, yada. I'm like, I mean, that's all good and great, but you don't know Mrs. Wu. And I feel like between her and Michael, Sonny's the only person that seems like he does handle her with a modicum of respect and like understands her position of power. But I feel like I feel like it's one of those things where it's like Cyrus. It's like people forgot who Cyrus was until he had to sit there and shoot someone. And I feel like that's the same thing with Mrs. Wu, especially when it comes towards Brett. You know, Brett's all like, "Oh, I don't really care, and I'm not afraid of her," and Brad's like, "You should be." Like, confidence can only get you so far. Sam and Drew. This is another one of those scenes where I felt like, all right, it was cool and nice seeing them be together and, just be co-parents and just friends, not actually having any sort of animosity. I mean, there's one point where after, Drew's like, what happened to my shares? And Sam had to sit there and go through the whole story about how Valentine, owns her shares until, the kids turn 18. And there's one point where Santa's like, I changed, I grew up, or I grew, and Jason just wanted to be part of the mob life, and I wanted something like simple. And, Drew was like, oh, you mean kind of like what we was having? Kind of like what I wanted with you? And she was like, yeah. I'm like, yeah. It was just one of those things where it's like, you changed. I was like, yeah, you changed, but there's more to it than that. But I'm gonna be honest. I didn't really care for how she did it. And I've said that multiple times, but for people that forgot, I didn't really care for how she did it. Yeah, she had concerns and everything like that for why she wanted Jason out of her life or why she didn't want to be a part of Jason's life anymore. The danger, the violence, and stuff like that. But you were doing that for a while just fine. You knew exactly who he was and you still wanted to be with him. I guess the wake up call changed priorities. Okay, fine, cool. But you did it at the last minute, and that's just something that I just can't get past. Um, so hearing Drew say something along those lines, I was like, "Yeah, Sam." Mm-hmm. Other than that, it didn't really go anywhere else. Drew was about to sit there and beat the living hell out of Victor, but Sam, kind of stopped him from doing that, and then they sat and they talked, and it didn't really go anywhere. So I don't know. I feel like that's about it. Like I said, this episode wasn't bad, and I get because it's 5 days a week. It's a new episode every day. Then every day could be like an amazing, great, and just mind blowing episode. But I felt like this episode, for so many reasons, just felt completely unnecessary. And there was a lot of things that just happened that didn't really go anywhere. Felicia, Peter scenes didn't really go anywhere. Um, the only thing that happened with Anna and Maxie is that Anna wants to sit there and revisit the crime scene, but she wants to sit there and do it with Austin. So that kind of changes the parameters as far as like what Maxie's going to sit there and try to do to throw her off the scent. Um, Brad and Britt stuff was only interesting towards the end when Britt found out what Brad had to do. Um, Victor and Austin didn't really do too much of anything. I thought Victor was going to go that route of okay, so what's going on with the baby and everything like that? Like, when did you find out? But then it's just like, all right, cool. We're going to use Maxie to sit there and get back at Brooklyn. And I'm like, Austin, you should probably say something. You're not saying anything. And to be honest, even if you were to get together with her, it just would look awkward as hell. I mean, it looks like you can be her dad's age. Like, not that much of a difference. So, and like I said, the my personal favorite part was Chase and Brooklyn. Everything else is just like, eh. So yeah, I don't know if I probably messed something. It was probably out of boredom, but I feel like tomorrow's episode's gonna be a lot better. And it was one of those things where it's like, damn it, why couldn't we have that episode today? It's really sad. Just tomorrow's episode is gonna be focusing on Sunny, Carly, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm kind of over the whole. Da 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 da. Everyone's picking a side. I pick sides. I went back and forth. What I do is I try to sit there and look at it from both perspectives. I mean, both points of views. And, regardless of who my favorite character is, regardless if they're a man, if you are wrong, you are wrong. Um, just watching those two go back and forth is interesting, but it can get a little bit taxing. So I guess in some ways, this episode was definitely necessary as far as a break. But then it also just seems like, well, why couldn't you make their storylines a little bit more interesting? You know? I don't know. Anyway, with that being said, I'm going to go. I want to thank you for watching. Be safe, and I will see you in the next video.